как вступление спрошу вообще, кто здесь с какими целями, так скажем, пришел? Кто-то только начинает изучать радиотелефонию, кто-то уже изучает, но пока в каком-то там моменте запутался или не уверен еще. Напишите, пожалуйста, в чате, вы на каком сейчас этапе знакомства с фразеологией, с радиообменом. Я все ваши сообщения в чате увижу. Вообще будет здорово, если мы сегодня с вами будем общаться в чате, вы мне будете помогать. Посмотреть, что такое вебинар вообще. Отлично, отлично. Ну, значит, базовый этап. Угу. Святослав, значит, вы еще не были на нашем вебинаре по подсказкам, как сдать на уровень. Сдача опять на уровень. Ага, да, конечно, радиообмен нужен и для сдачи на уровень. В любом экзамене так или иначе он встречается в разных... Раньше такой радиообмен на английском, в принципе, да. Ага, то есть если вы говорите радиообмен на английском, значит, радиообмен на русском вам уже знаком. Вы его либо ведете, либо слышали, либо он вам просто кажется, да? Надеюсь, что так. Тогда будет еще интереснее сравнивать английский и русский радиообмен. На самом деле, ага, Александр, прекрасно. Послушать правильно английскую речь. Супер. Ну все, я думаю, что можем начинать. Кто присоединится, я думаю, включится и в разговоре поймет, о чем я. Вообще, прежде всего, еще раз всех поприветствую, с кем еще не поздоровалась. My name is Lily. I'm Aloha Aviation English teacher. I'm working with pilots, with ATCs. I'm preparing them for exams and just with general aviation English, что обещала до приветствия еще на русском, но я буду сейчас пока миксовать. Я думаю, что вы меня сейчас понимаете, слышите. Если будут какие-то вопросы, прям задавайте в чат, не стесняйтесь в какой-то момент перевести, подсказать или где-то помочь. Сегодня мы будем говорить про радиообмен. Мы будем, конечно, невозможно в один вебинар весь радиообмен включить и разобрать каждую деталь, как, на каком этапе нужно как реагировать. Поэтому, чтобы не распыляться на все эти тонкости, мы возьмем самую базу, самую структуру. Мы обсудим этапы радиообмена, я думаю, вы уже в программе видели этапы радиообмена, диспетчеры, которые отвечают за этот радиообмен, какие инструкции от диспетчеров пилотам ожидать на каждом этапе и какие запросы ожидать диспетчерам, то есть чтобы здесь это было не только в одни ворота, и пилотам, и диспетчерам, чтобы было бы полезно. И почему это важно, почему это полезно? Если вы сейчас на совсем начальном этапе только знакомитесь с фразеологией, возможно, как и все новое, для вас это пока что-то такое непонятное, сумбурное, и нужно с чего-то начинать. И начинать лучше всего со структуры, потому что бывает такое, что думаешь, блин, а за что вообще взяться, с чего начать? Поэтому мы будем прям разберем поструктурно, что зачем идет. Бывает такое, что пилоты или диспетчеры, в принципе, понимают, как происходит полет, да, понимают, как происходит вообще вся работа авиаспециалистов, но путаются при определении этапов, что зачем идет. И пока эти этапы четко не проговорены, их не обсудили, тяжело изучать радиообмен и уходить в тонкости, в детали. Поэтому это будет полезно и пилотам, и диспетчерам. Пилотам понятно, что уже нужно будет в скором будущем или еще не в скором будущем взаимодействовать с диспетчерами и уже в качестве студентов, кадетов, да, они будут общаться с опытными диспетчерами, и, конечно, никто не будет объяснять, наверное, поэтапно каждую деталь. Это все нужно будет включаться сразу в работу. Для диспетчеров это будет полезно. Кто-то уже проходил практику в своем университете или колледже, для кого-то это еще, кому-то это предстоит, кто-то уже работает на тренажерах, кто-то нет. Я думаю, что в любом случае эти знания либо помогут вам глубже разобраться, либо начать помогут знакомству с радиообменом. И сегодня мы будем обсуждать. Но я сегодня буду говорить конкретно только про радиообмен и немножко расскажу про курс, который уже кто-то из нас проходит, я знаю, тут вижу участников. На самом курсе мы не проходим, конкретно такой нет темы вот радиообмен. Вообще курс называется все темы, все топики для сдачи на уровень, но на наших мастер-майндах мы, конечно же, изучаем и радиообмен, поэтому в каких-то деталях мы его касаемся. И в деталях, в смысле, касаемся на занятиях, на самих вот уроках, на видеоуроках, а на мастер-майндах уже обсуждаем глубже. По поводу всяких предложений, скидок, интересных сюрпризов и подарков для вас, вы можете эту информацию получить после вебинара. Вам придет письмо, сообщение со всей информацией, поэтому я перехожу сразу к делу. So, my name is Lily, I'm turning to English, and I hope everything is okay and you can understand me. If you need me to speak maybe more slowly or in a more understandable way, tell me about this. So, today we're going to work with radiotelephony, with phraseology, and my first question, if you are ready, you очень slowly, please. Okay, I see. I will try to do it. So today, first of all, I want to ask you, if you're ready, please help me, give me answers in English, if you can, in our chat, or in Russian, if it's a little bit complicated. First of all, we have to understand that when we have a radiotelephony, we use a standard phraseology and just plain English in some cases. So my first question is, in what situations do we use standard phraseology? In what situations do we use plain English? Can you help me? The first question, standard phraseology. Where, when, in what situations do we use standard phraseology? If you are ready, you can share your answer with me. In Russian or in English, it doesn't matter. Standard for routine situations, absolutely true. Yeah, we use standard phraseology for routine situation, and thank God that most situations are routine. I say thank God because sometimes when I get deep aviation, так, я, наверное, сейчас быстренько поприветствую, кто присоединился. Если что, можно не обязательно подключаться, начинать эфир. Можно просто участвовать в чате быть, и вы также будете слышать меня, можно участвовать именно в переписке, чтобы у нас не было никаких накладок. So, if we talk about radiotelephony and standard phraseology, I want to say that when I get like deep inside the accidents, incidents, sometimes it looks for me that I know crashes happen every day, and that's why non-routine situations happen every second. But no, of course, if we talk about statistics, usually we use standard phraseology because routine situations is a base of our work, of your work, actually. And when and what situations do we use plain English? Just plain means not phraseology, just simple phrases, simple grammar. In what? Standard radiotelephony in routine situations, and non-standard English for non-routine, for non-standard situations. Absolutely true. Yeah, and when we talk about non-routine situations, of course, it's necessary to discuss all problems which can happen connected to weather, technology, ground operations, and so on, which we're going to discuss on course. But if we talk about standard situations, today we're going to work with them. As I told you, today we're going to work with a structure, and then we are going to discuss the ATCs, which are responsible for each stage of flight. Yeah, for emergency station. Yeah, that's true. Non-routine or emergency stations. And we're going to discuss ATCs who are responsible for these stages and what to expect. I will share my screen so I can draw here. I hope you can see it. If I, for example, Can you see my writing? Yeah, great, super. So now I have to delete it. Okay, it will be on my screen. Yeah, you see, great. So let's discuss the first stage, the first part of the flight. And actually, the first question is not only about radiotelephony. Maybe pilots can tell me. Now, I'm asking pilots, and then I will ask ATCs. What do you do before entering the cockpit? What is a very important part of pre-flight preparation? Where can you discuss all important moments, all airport layouts, route, briefing? Yeah, that's great. So pilots, yeah, briefing, yeah. Pilots discuss all route situations in briefing. ATCs also have briefing, but they have it before shifts. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken. So it's not like pre-flight, it's a briefing before shift and debriefing at the end of the shift. So, and Oh, medical check, even deeper. Yeah, it's even before. But okay, yeah, let's start with the briefing. And then we are starting the flight. As you know, the flight starts not only when we take off, yeah, when pilots take off, but much earlier. And the first information which we can get, it's weather, meteorological information. How can we call it? What is the name for this information? Can you tell me what pilots can get? ATIS, yeah, that's true. ATIS. So we can consider it as if I can give it a number to the stage, I would give it 0. So yeah, 0, it's like ATIS, it's weather information. And what is the first stage of the flight of radiotelephony? How do pilots start radiotelephony? With what stage? Can you help me? How do we start the flight? Radio check. Okay. Yeah, call sign. Yeah, you mean how we start the request. But what is the first etap? What is the first stage? What should pilots request at the beginning? Start engine. There is a typical idea, ATC clearance. Yeah. Some people say that we start engine first, but usually it's ATC clearance. So the first stage is getting for pilots and giving for ATCs ATC clearance. What is ATC clearance? I will discuss what we expect to hear in this part, but in general, I will tell you that ATC gives you clearance to start the flight to this destination. It means that your flight plan is okay, everything is good, you can start other stages. So, and the next stage is, some of you mentioned, startup. Here I have to make a little comment. Startup or what? What else can be number 2? Your ideas. Startup or what? Pushback, yeah. Here it's very difficult to maybe give the correct order, because sometimes first pilots request pushback, then startup. Sometimes startup, then pushback. Sometimes immediately pushback and startup together. That's why it doesn't matter if it's number 2 or number 3. And also I have to mention, according to standard physiology, according to all radiotelephony rules, we have to start with ATC clearance. But I noticed, according to radiotelephony recordings, I see that sometimes ATC clearance is given after pushback or before pushback, but after startup. And but I understand that it's possible, and maybe if you're a working pilot or a DC, maybe you encounter the situation. That's why I don't want to say that it's only the first stage of the flight, but usually in standard radiotelephony it's the first stage. So ATC clearance, startup, pushback. What is number 4 after pushback? What do we request or give? Taxi, yeah, I agree. Taxi to what, by the way? Taxi to what? To holding point, yeah. Here I think it's better if I use also Russian. Holding point is предварительный старт. It's very important to know. Taxi to holding point. Yeah, also we're going to discuss later what exactly it is and what is the difference between Russian and English in this stage. About taxi to holding point, what is next? Can you help me? What is next? So you taxi to holding point, pilots are standing, line up. Yeah, that's true, you're helping me. Yeah, line up. And next, after line up, what is the next stage? Yeah, but here takeoff, I agree, but I would like to even divide this to little parts. Yeah, departure, yeah, or takeoff, clearance to takeoff. Yeah, here I would like to maybe divide to takeoff roll and takeoff. I will explain why I would like to divide it and why it's necessary. And exactly takeoff when your pilots become airborne. After takeoff, we start what? Takeoff, initial climb. That's great. Yeah, initial climb. Yeah, climb, but not just climb, initial climb. And after initial climb, just climb. After climb, we have a stage of what? Flight so cruise, we can call it cruise, yeah? So flying at, yeah, cruise. Be careful, by the way, route to exit airport. Yeah, it's interesting. Now you started using also traffic pattern, коробочка. Yeah, I agree. So yeah, but also as a stage, we can call it cruise. So we climb to necessary flight level, and then we have a cruise flight. The next part, when, okay, we have to finish cruise some time, and the next part is closer to the end is what? But before approach, I think we should mention descent. So descent is the next part. The next is approach, as Svetoslav suggests. And also, when we talk about approach, we have to mention final approach. Final approach. So it's also, I would like to have it as a separate stage. Final approach, and next is very close to the end is what? Landing, yeah, or touchdown. Yeah, taxi is a little bit later, yeah. Touchdown, the moment of touching the ground. Then landing run, yeah, we can say landing run. It's also important to mention. Initial approach. Maybe, yeah, you can also say initial approach, then approach, and final approach and landing. Landing run. And finally, Ruslan suggested taxi. Yeah, but taxi where? Earlier it was taxi to holding point, and now taxi to the gate, to the stand. So let's check if it's clear in Russian everything. Startup – it's запуск двигателей, pushback – буксировка хвостом вперед, taxi to holding point – руление на предварительный старт, line-up – исполнительный старт, take-off roll – разбег перед взлетом, дословно take-off – сам взлет, initial climb – первоначальный набор, climb – набор, cruise – это сам полет, descent – снижение, approach – заход, подход, final approach – финальный подход, последняя часть подхода, touchdown, касание землей, landing run, пробег после посадки, and taxi to gate, руление на выход на стоянку. And now let's discuss which ATC units are responsible for which parts of the flight. Why it's necessary to understand. Sometimes ATCs, when they have radiotelephony, or when they train it, or when they listen to some audios, they get confused what instructions they have to give, what areas they are responsible for. I mean, about, of course, students ATCs. I'm sure working ATCs don't have such problems. And when you understand it, of course, it's easier to get the necessary instruction and not to be confused. And of course, each ATC must understand their responsibility of their units. And pilots also sometimes cars. You want to continue, yeah? But now we're going to discuss only communication between ATCs and pilots only, and that's why we will discuss only these stages of flight. So, and why is it necessary for pilots to understand which ATC is responsible for which stage of the flight? Sometimes when we work with pilots, usually student pilots, who don't have experience with radiotelephony in English, they get confused, like what ATC I should call, or what ATC I should request, when I have to change the ATC, when I should start. And in order not to confuse, we will discuss ATCs. So, what ATC units do you know? Please help me. What ATC? I will change the color now. And we will discuss what ATC units do you know. For example, in Russian maybe, even, or in English. No ideas? Maybe I will. Delivery. Okay, what else? Cool. let's just give me all units which you know, and I will help you. Taxi. In Russian, because you call it руление, yeah? In English, it's a little bit different. Maybe, yeah, ground, yeah. Руление is as ATC is ground. Start tower, okay. Tower, yeah, there is an ATC tower. Radar, we're gonna discuss it, yeah. Great, anything else? Delivery, ground, tower, radar, what else? Approach, yeah, and also approach has shares the same frequency with departure, Ruslan. Yeah, Evgenia and Ruslan, you wrote, and approach and departure. Usually they share, not usually, okay, sometimes they share the same control. Great, super. I suppose almost all are mentioned, yeah. Tower, approach, departure, ground, yeah. Okay, and now let's discuss which ATC is responsible for which stage of flight. When pilots want to request ATC clearance, who do they contact? Can you help me with this list? Okay, I will help. We contact delivery, yeah, or clearance. It depends on the airport. We can say the name of the airport, for example, Sheremetyevo or Vnukovo or Heathrow or anything, and then add the name of the unit. Delivery or clearance. For example, in at Ben Gurion Airport, it is clearance, but at Heathrow Airport, it is delivery. Anyone, okay. By the way, do we have here ATCs or pilots who are working at Russian airports or have flights in Russia? So maybe you will help me in Vnukovo, in Sheremetyevo, in Domodedovo, on in any. Oh yes. So can you help me? Do you know some airports where, for example, delivery only is used or clearance is used? Or if you encounter something in English, maybe you know, because I know about Heathrow, Ben Gurion, Nice, for example, Sheremetyevo. By the way, I don't remember Sheremetyevo clearance or delivery. I suppose nobody is working Sheremetyevo, but I hope you will encounter this in your Pulkovo delivery. Or cool, interesting, it's good to know. Thank you. So when pilots get ATC clearance, delivery or clearance give this information. Later we'll discuss what information, and then delivery or clearance give the new frequency for pilots to start up, push back, and taxi to holding point. In this case, we use ground. Yeah, ground, that's right. For startup, for pushback, for taxi to holding point. Here I have to mention that usually in small airports there is only one. Okay, I will tell. Pilots in one flight work with only one frequency ground, but sometimes you can change different frequencies, different ATCs, but all of them are ground. For example, at Heathrow Airport, from startup to taxi, you have to change 2 or 3 ATCs, and all of them are ground. Sometimes it's not a rule at all. It's not even a quite common situation. But as far as I remember, at Incheon Airport, they have such frequency as a ramp, but it's not very common, so I just tell you. So sometimes they can ask you to change the frequency from ground to ramp, but it will be the same idea. So when you enter or when you reach holding point, or you're in the process of reaching holding point, you have to change the frequency to what? To tower. Departure is very early now. Tower, it's easy to remember that tower is responsible for all operations connected with runway. So line up, исполнительный is connected with the runway. Yeah, and takeoff roll, of course, and takeoff, all of them are tower. You can contact tower when, pilots can contact tower when pilots are at holding point, на предварительном, or when they are reaching holding point, подходит. And of course, ATCs, tower ATCs must be very attentive. Check the observe the runway and give instructions to appropriate aircraft in time. And here I have to mention line up, takeoff, roll, and takeoff. When I mentioned takeoff roll as a different stage, but actually, as you remember, pilots mustn't be distracted, отвлечены, during takeoff roll, because it's a very responsible moment and there is no time and opportunity to have radio communication. But if ATCs, tower ATCs, must cancel takeoff, of course, they can contact during takeoff roll. That's why I mentioned this as a different stage of flight. Usually you don't have a communication, but you have to understand that if, for example, pilots want to cancel takeoff, they have to coordinate with tower, and also tower gives cancellations for takeoff. So you took off, tower gives you new frequency, and actually ATC clearance also gave you this frequency. What is this new frequency for what? When you're airborne, what do you contact? Not yet. Not controls. Oh, it's very interesting. Thank you, Evgenia, for mentioning it. I know that in Russian, you have dispatcher Kruga, right? Russian ATCs and pilots who work with Russian. Yeah, that's true. So, and in English, if you check all documents, rules, and so on, they don't have the exact the same ATC as dispatcher Kruga. Sometimes we have radar, or sometimes in Russian airports we call it as a radar. Sometimes it can have similar responsibility as dispatcher Kruga, but have absolutely different name. For example, in London can be London director or something like this. So in Russian airports, yeah, we have dispatcher Kruga, and usually it's called like a radar. But if we talk about international airports, I mean American, European, and Asian, it's more typical after tower to contact departure. Immediately departure. So radar is a very important moment, but here I will not use it in a scheme. When we contact departure, later I will tell you what you have to, as a pilot mentioned, what can ATC, departure ATC give. And when we start climbing, and when, I mean, not initial climbing, when we have like continuation of climb, when we have cruise, when we have to descend, in general, we have what ATC? Sergey, you already told about this. It's control, yeah? Now we work with control, and I would like to call it as a general ATC, as far as you... Dispatcherский пункт подхода, approach, yeah, approach. Sometimes in some airports they're divided. At departure only departure, during approach only approach. But in some airports I heard that they don't change the name. I don't know, do you have any ideas? Maybe now all airports which I encountered in my listening, I heard departure or approach. Maybe arrival, but arrival it's also like approach. Radar it's like dispatcher Kruga, yeah, also the synonym for it. But actually there is in international airports, in foreign airports, usually tower and then departure. So control. Control is a general name for all ATCs who help pilots to work en route. Valentina, if you have some ideas, you can share with us. So, Valentina, if you want to have some extra variants, please share with us. It will be interesting to discuss. So, when we work with the control, oh, I see, I see, Valentina. So, but usually I encounter departure. You can help me if you want. So when we work with control, we can change several ATCs actually, but all of them are called all control, or sometimes just I hear often in radiotelephony, just for example, contact Seoul, contact London, and they even don't use name control. And it's also possible to use for climb, cruise, and descent. And when we start approach, how do we, can I type? Yeah, how can we call the ATC who is responsible for approach? Any ideas? Yeah, approach, yes, easy. Or sometimes I heard arrival. Can you see when I type approach? Because maybe my video is blocking the view. No? Can you see my typing? I hope yes, because in my screen with video blocks it. So when we yes, see, great, approach or arrival at some airports, at some area. And when we work with final approach and touchdown and landing run, it's again about the runway. We contact who? London control для подхода. I suppose it depends on the airport, of course. Now we're going to discuss standard rules for radiotelephony, but of course, sometimes rules can depend on airports. So, and when Ruslan, you suppose ground, yeah? Ground, but it will be a little bit later. When we work with a runway, what do we contact? Who is responsible for runway? Final approach, touchdown, landing run, tower. Yeah, it's usually tower. We will discuss what tower gives pilots in this case, what information is necessary to discuss. And when we when pilots vacate the runway, they contact what ATC? When we have to ask taxi instructions to gate to stand. Again, this question, when we vacate the runway, leave the runway, we have to contact a different ATC about texting to gate, ask instructions to gate to stand. It's again round. When we vacate the runway, we contact ground and request instructions to taxi. If everything is okay, yeah, if there is no problem. So now let's discuss. So I will tell you a little bit what requests pilots usually make, what instructions ATCs usually give in each stage. There is a lot of information, so I will not maybe fix it. You can make some notes and we will discuss, and I will ask you also your help to discuss these moments. Of course, I will not give you total full instruction how to make a request, how to give instruction, what parts should be included, what parts shouldn't be, because it will be for a long time. In our masterminds, we're gonna discuss it, of course. So let's discuss first ATC clearance. What information? My first question actually is, who usually initiates the conversation when pilots need ATC clearance? It's pilot's request or ATC clearance? Or ATC instruction, ATC initiating the conversation. Your ideas? Pilot. Yeah, according to the standard phraseology, again, everything depends on the very case. Usually pilots make request. They request ATC clearance to destination. Yeah, it's a city or an airport, exactly, if there are several airports in the city. But sometimes, for example, when pilots request ATC clearance, there was a delay, some time left, ATCs can again initiate the conversation and say that ATC clearance is available, and then pilots will ask to give him this ATC clearance. So in ATC clearance, delivery or clearance gives us information about if the flight is cleared or not to the very destination. Also, it gives information about if it's flight plan route or not, or if there are some extra airways which we have to follow. Also, the ATC clearance gives information about SID. standard instrument departure, initial climb, and ATC gives departure clearances, or departure frequencies, sorry. Sometimes students can be confused when ATC clearance gives departure frequency. It means that we have to contact it right now. No, of course. After delivery or clearance, you need to contact ground, but they give you this frequency which you're going to use when you're airborne. And also, they give you squawk. It's a usual typical list of instructions. Sometimes some of them can be given, sometimes some of them can be neglected. It depends on the station. When we talk about startup and pushback, who usually initiates the conversation? Pilots make a request or ATCs gives instructions? Pilot. Yeah, I agree. Initially, pilots usually request startup and pushback. Yeah, and as I told you, sometimes pilots can request only startup first, only pushback, or startup and pushback together. And what can ground ATC give? What instructions can this ATC give to pilots? Of course, they can approve or startup or pushback. Wind, you mean wind? It will be necessary later a little bit information about wind. But here about startup or pushback, usually they give information if it's approved or not. By the way, be careful. When we talk about ATC clearance, ATCs give information and they use the phrase cleared to, for example, Vnukovo, cleared to Heathrow, cleared to Sheremetyevo. And when we talk about startup and pushback, they use the phrase approved. They don't use cleared. Later I will explain why. So yeah, when we talk about startup and pushback, they give if it's approved or not. Maybe if it's not approved now, they give the instruction to stand by. Maybe to start up or push back later at certain time, or to start up at pushback at own discretion. At own discretion. It means на свое усмотрение. It means pilots make a decision when exactly they need to start up and push back. When we talk about taxi to holding point, yeah, Anton, I agree. They give us precise taxi route. Yeah, and we have to follow, as pilots, we have to follow this taxi route. Here it's not a lot of things to mention, because if they say taxi via Kilo, you will taxi via Kilo, taxi turn left. So you have to follow the instructions in a full way. When you reach holding point, usually ground gives you instruction to contact tower or to monitor tower. When they give you instruction to monitor tower, it means that you have to wait until they contact you. So in this case, and you can initiate the contact or tower. But this is a very interesting difference between Russian and English phraseology. Again, I will tell you about standard, typical situations. Of course, the situation can depend on airports or on different stations. In Russian, please, pilots or ATCs who are working with Святослав, monitor, it's like, дословно, мы в русском даже используем слово мониторьте, наблюдайте. Прослушивайте, наблюдайте, мониторьте. Мне кажется, так легко запомнить. It means they don't have to contact first. You have to check this frequency if they contact you first. So when you contact tower in Russian, as far as I know, because Russian phraseology is very interesting also, pilots request line up in Russian phraseology. I heard a lot about it from my students who are having a flight practice. So they like, запрашиваю исполнительный. Is it true? Pilots and ATCs in Russian, can you help me? Do pilots request? Yeah. So, no. Okay. So we have controversial answers. Okay, as far as I heard, at least at UiGA, at Sasova Flight School, I heard that pilots request in Russian, запрашиваю исполнительный. But in English, we never do it. I can't imagine situations where it's necessary. When you initiate the contact with tower, you have to inform where you are. It's necessary to inform where you are in any case. For example, reaching holding point 26 or reaching holding point 28, right, and so on. And in this case, tower ATC will give the instruction to line up on their own, without your request, without your help, and tower will decide when it's necessary to give you the information about line up. So of course, pilots, ATCs can give an instruction to line up now, line up and wait. Also, they can give the instruction to hold short of the runway, to stand by. Moreover, there is a very interesting instruction with behind. Maybe you heard of it when there is some traffic which is vacating the runway, or I don't know, landing on a final approach. The ATC can give you the information behind Airbus 320 on final, line up behind. Line up runway 3, yeah, twice, that's right, yeah. They have to, ATCs have to repeat it twice, and pilots in their readbacks have to repeat it twice. It's a very important moment, because it's a very risky situation if you as a pilot don't understand that you have to wait now. So when we talk about takeoff roll, again, as I told you, it's not necessary to, it's actually forbidden in some cases to distract pilots from takeoff roll, and you can do it only if ATCs want to cancel takeoff. And we're going to discuss in our course what reasons can be for this. Or pilots can cancel takeoff if they find it appropriate. When we talk about initial, when pilots are airborne, they have to contact departure, and what information should they give, and what information can they get. You have to remember the information from the departure, from the clearance, sorry. You have to remember your seat, initial climb, and you have to inform departure ATC about this information. And in this case, departure will give you new climb instructions for initial climb, and new heading, new vectors, and so on. It's easier and maybe more obvious when we talk about climb, cruise, and descent. Here you have to follow the instructions strictly, yeah, and sometimes, in some cases, pilots can make a request, but usually ATCs give instructions. They give instructions and change you to a different frequency, and in this case, you follow these instructions. Sometimes they can ask you to report some waypoints, reaching or passing some waypoints or flight levels. In this case, of course, you will initiate the conversation. And here, I wanted to mention about cleared and approved. What is the difference? When we talk about ATC clearance and takeoff, ATCs give us instructions like cleared for takeoff, cleared to Moscow Sheremetyevo. But when we talk about startup, pushback, line up, it's important to say approved. This is a very important difference, and it can't be confused. And also about takeoff, I wanted to mention, maybe you've heard, there is a special rule that the word, and people who are here, they from our course, maybe they remember this story about Tenerife. After this crash, it was introduced, the rule was introduced that when you as a pilot want to share and want to show that you are ready, готов к взлету, you will say ready for departure. And when ATCs give you clearance, they will give you clearance instruction cleared for takeoff. And it is a very important moment, and you have to be very careful not to confuse, because it can lead to miscommunication, like it was with pilots in Tenerife. So climb, cruise, and descent, as I mentioned, is very easy. You have to follow instructions strictly and read back, and in this case, everything will be safe. When we contact approach, yeah, pilots, contact approach, they have to inform about ATIS on board. As you remember, ATIS is given before the flight. That's why ATIS, ATIS of departure, I will rephrase. ATIS which we get about departure aerodrome is necessary to mention when we contact ATC clearance or delivery. And when we get new ATIS about the destination airport, we have to inform that we have this ATIS on board information, Lima, Victor, Yankee, Oscar. We have to inform approach that we have this ATIS. It can be quite complicated for pilots sometimes. They forget to mention that they have this ATIS on board when they contact approach. And usually approach gives us information about type of approach, runway, like what we have to prepare cleared, for example, ILS approach and so on. When we talk about, and also when we talk about approach, somebody mentioned about коробочка in Russian, or traffic pattern, they can give you different legs of this traffic pattern, base leg, on final, or if we talk about before downwind and so on. And when we talk about final approach, you contact tower. Again, pilots initiate the conversation because the approach gives, for example, the new frequency. Usually, when they say contact, you have to contact. When they say monitor, of course, monitor. And when you contact tower, you get the information if you're cleared to land or not. So cleared to land, and they give you wind information. Somebody mentioned about it. So when we take off and when we land, ATCs, tower ATCs give pilots wind information. And to be honest, it's maybe important to know, I suppose in Russian it's the same. You don't have to, as a pilot, you don't have to read back wind information. So you have to say cleared to take off, cleared for takeoff, cleared to land, and you don't have to read back the wind information, but you have to read back the name of the runway. And by the way, it's really important, even if you think that it's obvious. For example, you had the clearance for approach, the, ILS or visual approach with the number of the runway. You got the clearance to land with the name of the number, and some pilots can say, like, why should I repeat it several times? But it's better to repeat than to confuse the runway, and the consequences can be awful. That's why don't be lazy and pronounce the number of runway every time when it's necessary. So, and of course, when you touch down, during touchdown, it's necessary to keep silent, even but also if you have some difficulties during touchdown. For example, you see some aircraft, vehicle, animal, person on the runway in its non-routine situation, of course, you can break the silence. When we talk about landing run, usually the tower can give you information what taxiway you should vacate. You should use to vacate the runway, or sometimes when it's obvious, it's not necessary. But when you vacate the runway, it's necessary to contact ground. In this case, you inform that runway is vacated, and you request text instructions, or ground will give you without your request when you inform that the runway is vacated by you. So, and then of course you proceed to your taxi, and the flight. You proceed to your stand, and your flight is finished. So, and now in this little period of time, we try to play whole flight with short information about this one. Do you have maybe any questions about the stages, the ATCs, the parts of the flight, the instructions? Of course, it's not possible to tell you about all possible variations of each instruction which we can get, and I hope some of you will come to our masterminds, and we're going to discuss it in a full way. We will listen to audios, with these instructions, with these calls, requests, readbacks, and so on. Maybe you have some extra questions? Everything was right. Okay, got it. So if you don't have any question or maybe queries, уточняющие вопросы, maybe you have some questions about translations, maybe some of the word was not clear. I hope everything was okay. And в конце тогда перейду на русский, чтобы попрощаться и рассказать, что вы получите после нашего вебинара. Я, как уже говорила, вам придет письмо с интересными предложениями и подарками, поэтому и также вы сможете в любой момент найти нас в Инстаграме, ВКонтакте тоже, и задать какой-то вопрос. Вдруг у вас будет вопрос опять же, по вот этой теме, но, например, сейчас он не приходит в голову. Ой, спасибо за ваши реакции, очень приятно. Очень приятно, спасибо большое. И я надеюсь, что это было полезно. В любом случае, сейчас такой это был наплыв, да, информации, для кого-то уже известный, кто-то уже помогал, для кого-то это более структурировалось, для кого-то это было такое знакомство, для кого-то, может быть, проверка самого себя. Но если вы еще, например, не начали изучать радиообмен или не начали его практиковать уже в реальной жизни, в реальной работе, то будет полезно, если вы делали какие-то записи, плюс эта картиночка останется, мы сможем вам ее прислать, вы сможете проработать, просмотреть, почему это так полезно и нужно, если вы не работали еще. Who reports about landing? Вопрос, в смысле, кто начинает разговор, who initiates the landing conversation? Когда... When you contact a tower, you get the information about final approach, and when the tower gives you clearance to land, you repeat clear to land, and then sometimes, if it's necessary, you can inform that landing was completed successfully, sometimes when there was some risk of some problem, for example, you had technical malfunction. But usually it's tower can see your landing, and you have to mention and inform about runway vacating. So usually you get the clearance and you perform this landing. So, так, возвращаясь, почему это может быть еще полезно? Иногда, когда мы начинаем изучать фразеологию, или даже уже вроде бы ее знаем, с ней работаем, нам нужно сконцентрироваться на получаемой информации или на той информации, которую нам нужно выдать. И чтобы не концентрироваться сразу на всех вещах, с кем нужно связаться, что зачем идет, нам нужна эта структура, ее понимание. Тогда вы будете фокусироваться только на конкретно инструкциях и на конкретно запросах. Плюс еще такой важный момент. Ведь успешное ведение радиообмена – это не только какой-то экстраординарный, отменный, невероятный слух. Это чаще всего опыт, перемешанный, естественно, с аудированием. Да? Аудирование мы можем тренировать через прослушивание записи, а вот этот вот опыт, даже если вы еще не летаете или не работаете в качестве диспетчера, вы можете получить, условно говоря, досрочно в теории. Когда вы понимаете, что сейчас вы услышали инструкцию от диспетчера или вам что-то сказал как диспетчеру пилот, и вы думаете, да господи, что он там говорит, иногда вам помогает ожидание услышать что-то. Это тоже, конечно, важный момент, чтобы слишком не уйти в ожидание и не только не настроиться, наверное, он тут не разрешил взлетать, поэтому я взлечу. Нет, конечно, в такие крайности бросаться не надо, но все равно вы понимаете, что если вы уже 3 раза, допустим, диспетчер повторил инструкцию line-up, и у вас прям трудности с этим, то здесь, значит, нехватка понимания, что зачем идет. Если вы стоите на holding point, вы должны понимать, что так, я сейчас должен получить инструкцию либо на line-up, либо должен stand by, hold short of the runway, либо какую-то там с behind. То есть, когда вы уже примерно понимаете, что тут слова, в принципе, в стандартной фразеологии, их немало, но и невероятное количество вообще само по себе, вы уже ожидаете примерно, что вы можете услышать, и тогда ваш слух работает вместе с вашим опытом, даже в теории. И тогда у вас все получается. Я надеюсь, что этот вебинар вам был полезен для изучения чего-то нового, для повторения, для отработки. И надеюсь еще увидеться с вами на следующих вебинарах. И я думаю, что с кем-нибудь мы пересечемся на курсе, либо, опять же, в Инстаграме, ВКонтакте. Пишите, задавайте вопросы по этому вебинару или как-то шире этой темы. Если есть какие-то, опять же, пожелания или еще дополнительные вопросы, или что-то вы хотите написать перед уходом, я буду рада прочитать. Thank you for coming.